The man who watched the Eagles get left out of the most impactful trade on June 1st is not concerned about what Philadelphia missed that Monday. He is convinced about what is coming next. A former NFL player with 4 Pro Bowl selections on his resume, now an ESPN analyst, stepped forward publicly on Thursday with a prediction that is going to make every Eagles fan either shout with excitement or shake their head in skepticism, depending on how closely you follow Howie Roseman at work. He knows the Eagles' general manager personally, and he says he knows what comes next. The arms race between the NFL's contending franchises, according to this analyst, is just beginning. And the next move belongs to the Eagles. What Bart Scott of ESPN said about Howie Roseman, why the Myles Garrett trade to the Rams changed the competitive calculation across the entire NFC, which player the Eagles could use as the central piece of a deal to land one of the best pass rushers in the world, and why the physical examination question could be the deciding factor that determines whether this trade happens or not. You are going to understand all of it right here. If you are a true Eagles fan, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because this is the most ambitious prediction you are going to hear about the Eagles this entire offseason. On the Monday of June 1st, the Philadelphia Eagles woke up believing they would be the only team to close a blockbuster deal that day. The A.J. Brown trade to the New England Patriots, which had been expected for weeks, was on the table. But then the market turned. Hours before the first deal of the day was announced, Myles Garrett was traded to the Los Angeles Rams in an agreement that included Jared Verse going the other direction, a 2027 first-round pick, a 2028 second-round pick, and a 2029 third-round pick. The Eagles watched the player they wanted most this offseason go to a conference rival without Philadelphia being able to close. And then, almost immediately in sequence, the Eagles confirmed the Brown trade to the Patriots for a 2028 first-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick. A day that promised only one blockbuster deal ended up producing 2, and the Eagles closed the smaller of the 2. The subject of this video is Maxx Crosby. Bart Scott was an elite linebacker for 9 NFL seasons, a 4-time Pro Bowl selection, and a Super Bowl champion with the New York Jets within a defensive scheme that made him one of the best at his position for years. Today, he is one of the most direct and most confident analysts ESPN has on its roster. And when Scott says he knows Howie Roseman and he knows a big move is coming, the statement carries real weight because he is not simply analyzing from the outside. He is using insider context about how this specific general manager thinks and operates. Scott's words were precise and without ambiguity. He knows Howie Roseman and he sees a big move coming. He is telling everyone a big move is coming. Howie Roseman always has a plan. He believes Howie Roseman is going to use the space he has. He just saw what happened with Myles Garrett, and he is not going to be one-upped by anybody. And then Scott went further and named the player. He thinks Maxx Crosby is going to Philadelphia. He thinks the Eagles have the player in Nolan Smith to make the trade. They can mimic the same trade the Rams made. The arms race is just beginning. There are multiple layers to this prediction that need to be carefully broken down. The first is the competitive logic. The Rams were not a bad team before landing Garrett. They already had Jared Verse, a third-year edge rusher that many analysts were beginning to describe as a potential all-pro in the coming years. And even so, Los Angeles decided that an established elite pass rusher alongside Verse would transform the team from a contender into a favorite. The Eagles could be in a similar position. Jonathan Greenard is a quality pass rusher who arrived via trade during the draft. Nolan Smith recorded 7 sacks and 4 additional sacks in the Super Bowl 59 playoffs. The group is not weak. But the question is the same one the Rams ask themselves. Is the current group good enough for the next level? Or is there a player on the market who transforms the defensive ceiling of this team in a different direction? The second layer is Scott's specific proposal of Nolan Smith as the central trade piece. The ESPN analyst is essentially drawing a mirror image of the Garrett deal. One team trades a young and promising edge rusher going the other direction as part of the return for the selling franchise, combined with draft capital. Smith is 24 years old, was selected with the 30th overall pick in the 2023 draft, carries 7 regular season sacks from the 2024 season and 4 playoff sacks from the Super Bowl 59 run on his resume, and the Eagles just exercised the 5th-year option on his contract valued at $13.75 million for 2027. In other words, Smith has the contract value and the upside profile that the Raiders would need to receive in return to justify parting with Crosby. And speaking of the Raiders, The Las Vegas franchise is in a situation that makes the trade potentially more viable right now than at any recent point. General Manager John Spytek arrived in Las Vegas with a rebuilding mandate. A team actively building toward a medium-term future has real incentive to move a high-cost asset like Crosby, especially when that asset comes with physical examination questions that have reduced his market value relative to his peak. That is the third and most important element of this analysis: the physical examination. Earlier this offseason, the Ravens reached an agreement to acquire Crosby with the payment of a 2026 first-round pick and a 2027 first-round pick. 2 first-rounders. And then Baltimore backed out specifically because of concerns that emerged during the player's physical examination. Crosby missed 2 games during the 2025 season for health reasons, finishing with 10 sacks in 15 games rather than what could have been an even more dominant full season. That combination of a problematic physical and a partially health-shortened season created a level of medical uncertainty that any interested team needs to weigh, honestly, before committing significant draft capital to a deal. For the Eagles specifically, that question carries an additional dimension. The Philadelphia franchise exercised the 5th-year option on Nolan Smith, in part because the pass rusher had demonstrated real developmental potential when healthy. Delivering Smith plus draft capital to land a Crosby with unresolved physical questions would be a high-risk bet that any conservative roster analysis would flag as problematic. The safer option, from a management standpoint, would be to wait and see how Crosby's health situation develops through training camp before committing anything. But Roseman rarely operates in conservative mode when he sees an elite opportunity on the market. Draft analyst Lance Zierlein described Crosby as a pass rusher who, when healthy, is one of the 2 or 3 best in the world at the position. Jalen Carter alongside Jordan Davis in the interior, with Maxx Crosby on the edge and Jonathan Greenard in the rotation, inside Vic Fangio's pressure system, would be one of the most terrifying defenses any NFL franchise has put on the field in the last 10 years. If Roseman believes Crosby's physical concerns are manageable, and the Raiders are willing to accept Nolan Smith plus draft capital as sufficient return, the deal makes sense in virtually every other dimension. Scott's declaration that the arms race is just beginning is not empty rhetoric. It reflects a pattern the Eagles watched closely that Monday. The Rams landed Garrett. The cost was enormous, but the immediate result was transforming Los Angeles into Las Vegas's favorite to win the Super Bowl. Any team that watched that trade happen and has the capacity to make a similar move in response is being rationally competitive in pursuing the race. And Roseman, according to Scott, is not the type of general manager who watches the competition arm itself without responding. With Bart Scott predicting Maxx Crosby goes to Philadelphia, Nolan Smith identified as the possible trade piece mirroring the Rams deal, Crosby's physical concerns as the most unpredictable variable, and the NFC arms race just beginning. Do you believe Scott's prediction? Is Howie Roseman going to use the space created by the A.J. Brown trade to make exactly the move this analyst is describing? Or do the health questions make this deal too risky for a general manager who typically operates with surgical precision? Leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later with the latest Eagles news.